she should add the welcome to the stage. I hope this is for my great friend from PSFU. I'll take good care of it. Thank you. The curator, colleagues from government, development partners, members of private sector present here, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Joel Mundua. I work for UNCDF. We've been associated with the Mkutano company for quite some time, and we want to thank you for giving us a platform to engage again on this very important subject. I came here with my colleague Julius Magara. He's our energy coordinator, and if there are any tough questions, he's the guy. I'm a program manager. I coordinate projects in Uganda, Kenya, Somalia. I deputize the head of office in Uganda. I'd prepared quite voluminous work, and David warned me, you don't have enough time. And we're going to take all that to the discussion that is coming later on. I'm going to focus on who we are, and then talk about what PSFU brought here, financing, because that's what we do best. So I'll focus on 2 slides, and then we take most of the discussions for later. I don't know if the slides can run. Good. So I will quickly tell you about who we are, UNCDF. UNCDF is the UN Capital Development Fund. There's a community I went to, I asked if they know about UNCDF. They asked us, they told me, are you part of World Food Program? I said, yes, we are sisters. So, for a matter of introduction, we are one of the UN agencies. Our work is to make finance work. And we work in the 46 LDCs. So we focus on LDCs, and our work is to make finance work. And we have a capital mandate. You can go to a lot of slides ahead. Okay, there, thanks. We have a capital mandate, and we develop instruments and financial models to reach the last mile. So our interest, the last mile, in the discussions you will discover that we're doing all in our best to reach the very last mile, that household. How do we take digital solutions to the very last mile? How do we take renewable energy solutions to the last mile? How do we, the last mile? So our solutions are designed to make finance work for the very vulnerable and underserved populations in the last mile. We have a hybrid mandate. We are a development agency, so you will find us doing these other things development agencies do. We do market analysis, policy advocacy, technical assistance, and all this as a development agency. In northern Uganda, in many parts of Uganda, you will find us doing roads and a lot of things because we are a development agency. But we are also a financing agency. We do deploy capital from our own balance sheet and from third-party balance sheets. We do finance and business advisory. We catalyze capital. My friends from PSFU, we really going to be partners in what you're proposing there. And David, thanks for this Mkutano. We already got 2 connections here. Catherine and then I was quarreling. Why did PSFU keep quiet? We've been partners in crime for some time. There's a funding facility called START facility, Support to Agricultural Revitalization and Transformation. We designed that with the PSFU. So PSFU, a big round of applause to you, and we will follow this up with you and work with you. So we deploy this capital in 2 major flagship areas and 3 emerging areas. So one big area is inclusive digital economies. That's why I told you the work Catherine presented here is of a lot of interest to us, and local transformative finance. But we have emerging areas that includes climate, energy and biodiversity, sustainable food systems, and women economic empowerment. These emerging areas for us are of a lot of interest. And finally, I'm going to focus on one slide, and I'll spend some time on it. If you can go to the next slide, and then next, right there. I don't know if it's, I have 4 eyes, but I'm also struggling to see. Is it visible for you there? Good. I'm going to spend some time on it. So I'm going to describe, and this will help us align all this conversation to what we are able to offer as a UNCDF. So our financing solutions offers an investment continuum for SMEs and local governments. I'm going to talk a lot about local governments here. In the earlier discussion, I had big questions on the role of local governments because they are our clients. So private sector and the subnational governments are our major clients. So what is our continuum? As you see the arrow from left to right, we have the startup, early stage, growth, expansion stage, maturity stage. That's, we design financial solutions and instruments along that continuum there. And one big question we're going to have to answer with the PSFU when we design that fund is, where are the bankable projects? Project development, it's a cost, up to 10% of the cost in project development. And it's, the lack of bankable projects is actually one of the biggest problems, the challenges. So we designed this continuum knowing along the chain there is somehow need for grant or reimbursable grant facility along the way if you are to develop these projects. So what is our first stage? We have the grant, what we call the seed money, the seed capital. Now, we deploy this, the seed capital and the seed money in various ways. And the role of seed capital, seed money, others call it grants. It can be a reimbursable grant. It can be a zero interest grant. It can be quite concessional, 1-2%. So this is to prepare the businesses, the readiness, business readiness, to unlock. Many times we use it to unlock either new markets or rich products where ordinarily private sector will not go. So so there we deploy grants. If you tell private sector to go to Karamoja to distribute solar products in Karamoja, they will not go. That's where we pull the grant facility to take them where they will not go, or to unlock other sources of capital. And we've done this severally. We had many of the partners here could have participated in the Clean Energy Challenge Fund. Now that is a grant facility to prepare. The ultimate aim is concessional private sector financing or loan financing, but to prepare businesses or to let products reach where ordinarily private sector will not go. We've deployed grants in local governments, and that's a very big topic that we are putting across. How can the subnationals participate in investments as well? Can they participate in a market? Can they use market-based financing options? So these are the big questions. So we've also deployed a lot of grants at that level to promote renewable energies, both for cooking technologies, or solar for water pumping, solar for off-grid areas. We currently work with the EU in northern Uganda, where we're deploying a facility called Local Government Excellence Fund to provide solar as alternative energy in very rural areas for either water or irrigation, or so, and that's a grant, and it's a performance-based grant. We've designed a dedicated grant called the Local Climate Adaptive Living Facility, dedicated grant, performance-based grant that goes to local government to ensure the plan and the implement climate adaptation initiatives, and a lot of this goes renewable energy, for renewable energy. The Local Government Excellence Fund, up to 80% of the financing went for solar installations. We also do deploy grants in the digital area. We're also very strong in the digital, both digital finance, but all this, as I've said, it is early stage to unlock, to take private sector where they will not go, to develop projects until the private sector and these businesses are ready. Now, the next facility, we call it Bridge Facility, which is, so we're moving from the baby steps of grants, we move to the Bridge Facility, which is highly concessional. So you'll see loan guarantee, but really patient, and why? Because we're graduating you from wherever we'll have picked you with the other facilities to this, and begin introducing you to concessional financing. So then the Bridge Facility, actually, we do deploy it from our own balance sheet. We deploy these from our own balance sheet. Now, when the business grow, we go to the growth and expansion stage, where we have a number of facilities here. I'll spend some time also on here. We deploy the Build Fund, which is for SME, and there's another one called International Municipal Investment Fund, which is for the subnationals. Now there, we begin to talk business, and we need to get the financial model and the business models right. Remember, along the way, we are helping you build a healthy financial model. We are helping you build a healthy business model. And so when we reach here, we begin to talk business. So here, we can both deploy these from our own balance sheets, or we can work with third party. We worked with the PSFU to design the START facility, which is still ongoing. It's going to be the countrywide. And we're working with the Uganda Development Bank. So we're going to work with a number of more banks. We're going to add 3-4 more banks in addition to Uganda Development Bank. But this is either guaranteeing or concessional, but you must prove the bankability of the investments you're bringing forward. The Build Fund is for the SMEs, and we deploy this from our own balance sheet, and it's loan or equity. So the IMF, the International Municipal Investment Fund, is for subnational investments, city investments, municipal investments, and not any investment, but revenue-generating investments, because it is not free money, it is equity that the equity providers will need returns on their resources. So the ultimate and where we want to move the country, where is the maturity stage, where it is a domestic providers, it's the domestic capital markets, it's the domestic banks that are providing. But that, you see, why the cost of credit is high is the risk. It's because somebody told me when you walk in a bank, they look at you as dead. They think this man is dying tomorrow. So then that's where the interest begin. So the risk. So the ultimate is a stage where the maturity stage where you can walk in a domestic bank, a financial institution, the capital markets, and you tap into available resources. So we bring on table a number of products, and we're here, we sit in Kololo. We're proud to be associated with Mkutano, proud to be part of this conversation. We're going to stay here and have a longer conversation. We can discuss more of these that we're doing, more of our products, more of our approach with you, and I think we can take this conversation forward. You can actually visit us in Kololo. I want to thank you so much for the time, and I beg to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Mr. Mundua, just to remind you, the time we met, and it's still a theme that's recurring, I met you as a investment advisor and a broker. So any deals done here between you and PSFU, otherwise are already at the door. Everyone gets a lunch coupon, you get a contract. But thank you so much. So, about 20 minutes away from lunchtime, and there's burning questions. And I think the purpose of this particular session, and I think we're going to kick it into the afternoon as well, is to convert this entire room into a panel. There's experts here from government, from the private sector, and everyone in between. So I think, and also from some of the conversations we had before, I know Joachim had some comments that the ministry can engage. So there's no script. The background to this session comes from what we discussed or what was discussed, but I'll recap a little bit. But before I go there's two things I've always wanted to do. One, wear one of these microphones, and two, tell someone to stand up. So if engineer David Birumasa could please stand up. I forgot to introduce him before. He's been very instrumental in putting this together. He works with the Ministry of Energy. Please give him a round of applause. Burning the midnight oil. Thank you so much, my friend and namesake. So there's interesting conversations in terms of what we heard from Mr. Ayota. Huge buckets of funding that speak to the large projects, some of which aspect of how we develop those projects, how we deploy that capital is something that would be burning. And on the other end of the spectrum is small grant funding, catalytic funding that speaks to the majority. I think 90% of our businesses are speaking to what UNCDF is presenting, and certainly what PSFU is trying to structure with their $1 billion fund. So I want to, again, just open up the session. I think there's microphones here. We can pick up from what Joachim was asking. I think there's someone from the ministry who can unpack it. And then there's another question from the gentleman from Arua, and then we can progress into that, stop at lunchtime, and then pick it up after. I think one of the things that we try and do here is the opinions, and I always say this about the Mkutano. What we discuss here doesn't end when the room is shut. We take this, the PS is waiting for our conclusions, our recommendations, and the work and the heavy lifting will happen after. So without further ado, Joachim, the floor is yours, and then put your hand up, and we'll go with the flow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Joachim. I'm a CFO for a group of exploration and trading company operating in West Africa. I'm interested in mining and exploration and activities around, those issues. My question was,
Okay, just put your mic up a little bit, please.
my question was related to exploration map. Point to attract investment companies to come around so that exploration can go around and define economic value of minerals available and be able to market resources to investors and mining companies. So that is really a key factor to have the map. And again, having the concession, the framework, who has a concession, how does it work, and so that the investors know exactly the source partners, mining,
It's okay.
to have a really clear framework and information as one of the Manesia mentioned the availability of information is okay. The availability this is much better. The availability of information around those resources and what is available and the complementary investment that are facilitated to invest in terms of accessibilities and other resources around that helps us investors to come, to be attracted. And the purchasing power as well, if we talk about energy. So that is really my question, was around the availability of information about the geological map, the concession allocation, and the really clarity on what is available and how can it be accessed.
Thanks. So Joachim introduced himself as a CFO, so he has the money, he just needs the data. I don't know if the ministry, engineer Birimaso, those some conversations that alluded to the fact that I think 80% of our country has been mapped. I don't know if that information is public. Is Humphrey around, or engineer? Birimaso, David, is that something you can address? Okay. Okay. Can we kick that to touch for now? But I think, Joachim, if you picked up the conversations earlier, I think there was an indication that the foundation aspects from government have been put in place. Those 4 stages preceding exploration, I guess, would require some kind of information from government. There's an office in Entebbe, and I think we can connect you with that directorate. Some of this information should be public, so we'll exchange some contacts. And I think it addresses the point that the gentleman from Aroa was raising. I don't know if that you're also asking for information. So, Joel? Okay. There's another David here. I'll put some bias, and there's a gentleman there. Let's go with seniority here. Sir, please introduce yourself and share your comment.
Thank you so much. My name's Kayemba Patrick. I'm from the civil society. Members kept on mentioning private sector and government, but there is civil society. And my interest, the civil society itself is called European Institute for Sustainable Transport. And we are concerned about e-mobility. We talk about the last mile. For us, we are talking about the real physical mobility to the last mile. And in this case, we are interested in e-bicycle mobility. And we have gone through, with the partnership with the KFW, gone through the exploration phase. And now we at a stage that we want to see how we scale this up. From the different discussions that have, presentations that have been made here, I think little has been mentioned, and in regard to mobility, particularly bicycle mobility. Because people are talking about vehicles, they're talking about motorcycles and all that, but if you're talking about the last mile, considering our infrastructure, it is that bicycle which can be able to actually arrive at the last mile. So I'll be interested to know from the two presenters how this initiative can really benefit from the available funding opportunities that have been discussed here. Thank you.
Okay. Joel, you want to, and Apollo, you want to address those? Whether your interventions, whatever permutation of finance speaks to that e-mobility dimension, I'm sure that is something you can address.
Yeah, so e-mobility, particularly bicycles, very interesting. Yeah, so from the perspective of our work on climate change and adaptation, yes, it can fit. But I think it has to, okay, there's history to this. Allow me 1 minute.
No problem, sir.
Somebody produced a report on information asymmetry, the role of information asymmetry in interest rates, determining interest rates. They say when you walk to a bank and you're smartly dressed, and most especially if you have a stomach like my colleague there, you'll receive a lower rate because the loan officer will, the matrices are very funny. The loan officer will have confidence that this one will pay back. If you went in, now, same way. So I had a boss who used to ride to office. Will ride from Muyenga to Renjori House on the bike, and every day. And many didn't take it well. How can a boss ride a bicycle from Muyenga? So the bicycle is associated with the brokenness, right? So with the poverty. I didn't want to use that word, sir. So the bicycle is associated with the poverty. So I think you need to package it well, and you can package it around our work on infrastructure. Just the bicycles alone, we attempted it. By then I used to work in the World Bank. At KCCA, you see in KCCA you find those green sections. Those are meant for that, and that was part of your work. This is not our first time of engaging. So it must come alongside something, and there must be a lot of mindset change. So you must package it well with the mindset change, with other interventions, then it will come flying. I think it's something we can pay attention to. Thank you.
Thanks. I have to insist that we get the females going as well, because we're in trouble. Esther pointed out that we were thin on the female contribution of the panel. So at some point, please do something. David has a question, a comment, and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you. Mine goes to Honorable Ajidra. Luckily enough, he was in finance, so he's aware of what I'm going to ask him. When you were there, sir, there was a moratorium on sovereign loan guarantees. So my question to you, sir, is, now that the geothermal is obvious, it's there, have you considered going that way? Okay. Sovereign loan guarantee to get that source of energy? Thank you. And I know you're aware of what I'm asking, sir.
Okay. Let me pass the mic quickly.
Thank you very much. Yes, when I was Minister of Finance, there was, and I believe still, there is a moratorium on on sovereign guarantee. You know, sovereign guarantee, if not well managed, will expose the government to indebtedness that sometimes we do not want. If there are any, it must be with the express approval of the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance is not Matia Kasaija, no. In terms of the Constitution, the Minister of Finance is actually His Excellency the President, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the country. And so I think the decision was taken that at cabinet level, if there had to be a sovereign guarantee, it will be with his express approval, but also for a project that we know will have immediate financial benefits to the country. Otherwise, we tend to go through the normal traditional borrowing, where, of course, yes, he will be very much aware of it, but at the discretion of the finance minister, that's Matia, of course, in line with our debt to GDP, we can be able to borrow for this particular infrastructure or for that particular program. So that is how it was viewed at that particular time. I can give you one example where there's a project I will not name, where the promoter was given what we call as a blanket check. And that did not go very well with a number of people, because it exposed the country to indebtedness, which is beyond our control. So I think that is where the issue of sovereign guarantee becomes a little bit very tricky at that level.
I think it came up, Joe, when we're doing some work on local subnational finance. There's that act that puts people in place. You had a comment, but there's also some representation here from Iran, the gentleman, ambassadors. We welcome you to this session. Thanks for being with us. Joe?
Thank you, David. So I don't know if the previous panelists are still online. Maybe they're out. Gabriel,
Barbara?
Esther, George.
Do we have them online? I think George, is George on? No, they're not.
Okay.
Sorry?
But
After lunch, George, the panelists will be back on.
okay, but I'll still put my case across. I had two issues. One is on the artisan miners, the small scale and artisan miners. And for me, this is where my interest is. And Gabriel has gone, but I did a lot of work with Gabriel in Karamoja in trying to ensure those communities get locational license. And the purpose was that when you come with your investor, these communities should have had locational license, then it's a partnership. So I'd wanted to get from them and from Gabriel himself what the progress is in taking communities as partners, business partners. George very well articulated the importance of local economic development, the importance of doing it local and ensuring that you do it with the local. But again, he killed it at the end, in my view. I'm sorry I'm saying it. I don't wanted him to be there. When he said what is important is food security, education, and health. So that's what we see, mining companies, and this is what they provide: school, health center, food, and that's why he ended. When we talk of PPP, can we add a fourth P, this community? Can we add 4 Ps and take these communities as partners? Deal with them as partners in this, and they benefit from. When I engaged the ministry, we were doing some work in Karamoja, some region. The chairperson of one of the districts then told me he paid his fees from a certain gold mining area that had already been given out. He paid his fees from there. Then we told them, you see, so they have their own rudimentary experiences and expertise. Why don't we consider them as stakeholders and partners? And so I wanted to hear from them experiences from Botswana, from Tanzania, and also from Gabriel, what's the progress in Uganda on issuing locational licenses and ensuring these communities are taken as partners in this.
And that, maybe Joe, that's where PSFU may come in because of the umbrella. It's sort of an association of associations, right? I don't know if within your membership, Apollo?
Yes, David.
If you have a component or an association that speaks to that specific constituency of artisan or small miners.
We do, and it's something that we're going to go bilateral
Okay.
just before we go for lunch.
Okay.
Thank you. Then my second and last.
15% the commission.
Second and last. Second and last was to Humphrey. I don't know if he's still around.
No, is he around, Humphrey?
I liked the way he described the process. Then he ended by attracting mining companies. And there again, I was a bit intrigued. I said, okay, now attracting mining companies. And I'm happy that this morning, you know how to structure these dialogues. You started with NSSF, and you are creating $1 billion fund to make these partnerships practical. Why don't we start local? Why rush attraction? I know mining is quite expensive, but why don't we start and then so that the partnerships are so this attracting is great, but let's attract when we've started some journey, and that will make us active participants in the partnerships. I thought I should add those 2 points. Thank you.
So, Honorable Agenda, Mr. Chair, there's a female lady, participant with a burning question. We don't want to fall foul of the law that Esther gave us. So let's, can we go to her after a quick comment from you?
Just a very quick comment. It's not a question to anybody, but I think it's just for the consumption of the audience. I think what we have left out in this discussion is the public-private partnership in some of these energy and mining projects. Yes, mining has a lot of risks, and private sector will not want to inject in too much money unless they're absolutely sure that, yes, the project is viable, commercial viable, and they're able to recoup their returns. On the energy side, I think we should be looking more in terms of public-private partnership. I remember when I sponsored that bill in Cabinet and Parliament, public-private partnership bill. Eventually it was passed, but I've not seen any project that has been implemented on a PPP basis. And the law is there, the regulations are there, the law is there. I don't know of any. If they're there, I'm not aware of it. And therefore, I think when you're talking about energy and the mineral sector, we should be looking at actually using that law. That way, it reduces the risks for the investors, but also it gives opportunity for government to be able to take advantage of that expertise from the private sector to reduce their risks. So in all the discussions here, I think we need to keep at the back of our minds that sometimes we need that PPP law to be able to de-risk some of these energy and mineral projects.
Thank you. There's a question there or comment? And I think we'll pick up the PPP conversation after lunch because Joel was said, please, madam.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Loy Florence Chozaire is my name. I head the Association of Sendai Uganda Limited. We support local companies, and also we have a training academy. My concern goes to, there's a gentleman, I think, from the ministry who talked about capacity skills gap, and he said they are doing something to train people. I would like to know, in terms of involving the communities, where these minerals are coming from. I got a chance to, a few weeks ago, to read about the minerals, how they are distributed in this country. Unfortunately, my village was not featuring, but that is okay. But I'm more concerned about involving the communities and how they can benefit in terms of when we are training the people, are we able to get at least from each district, if we are supporting them, if we are sponsoring them to go for maybe at the university. Also, the other bit is this information everywhere. You might say Makere is offering, Kozi is offering these courses, but how can someone in Karamoja know that my child should do a certain combination at HS and be able to go for this course? Okay. How can someone in Kanungu get to know about this information? Is it possible to have an estimate of the future jobs that are going to be coming from the mining sector, so that the parents at the district levels, they can be able to hear about this information and they are able to position their children for the future jobs that will be coming? We need to know about that data, whether we can find it on other websites or somewhere else. I want to stop here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think there's a recurring theme now about community and skilling, and Engineer Biri Mamaso, I hope we can take this back to your colleagues in the Directorate and also extend it to the Ministry of Education and perhaps even some of these development partners who are vested in the skilling space, and also extending that fourth P that you're speaking about. I wonder if there's any questions from the online participants? No? Is there anything else from the room? Any comment? Yes, there's a gentleman behind there. Yes, the microphone coming to you. And then we'll break for lunch, I think.
Okay, for me, my point goes to UNDCF. Yeah, well, I'm from Masiko. I'm Geoffrey Muguma. I implement one of the energy program targeting northern Uganda and the refugees in West Nile. One of the big challenges we are currently having in trying to reach the last mile is the issue of accessibility and affordability. You'd find the different financial institutions, the different financial facilities we have currently don't look at making the different energy products we have currently on the market affordable to the targeted participants. Ideally, these other issues of climate change, the most hard hit at the last mile people in the communities. And as we discuss here, I think we should be looking at how we harmonize on some approaches and also how we look at collaborations. You'd find many of the products exist in the urban setting, but the last mile person who is hardly hit, hardly get this. But as Masiko, through our market systems approach, where we try to work with the different private sector actors, for example, now we are spearheading the promotion of solar powered irrigation pumps, but we're finding a hard challenge. These financial facilities don't exist in any financial institutions which are going to help the last mile user to access these solar powered pumps. So as UNDCF, with that granting facility, how best can we also be deliberate to target such companies which are trying to reach down? And again, as Uganda, we host a number of refugees. Those are other category of people we should be thinking about. For us as Masiko, we look at them as serious participants we should look at, and in such discussions, we should also be trying to reflect also that other side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I don't know if we want to pick this up after lunch, because there's a lot of layers to this, and I think it also relates to Apple. But I also want to, and we say this in Uganda a lot, there's a special guest we have from all the way from Nepal. Thank you so much for coming. It was a long journey. You can stand up and wave to everyone. So we have, first time we've had someone from Nepal in the audience. Thank you so much. Of course, that, yes. I think the mic will come to you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Actually, the challenge that I see in my country is like, despite there is a funding available, we don't have much bankable project. Like the private sector are not able to like design a bankable project. Therefore, like they lack financing. How is the situation in Uganda? How is private sector prepared to develop such project, or the special technical assistance are required from the government and the development partners?
Okay, I don't know who wants to take that. The minister.
What was the question?
No, I think Joel, you want to take that because it really speaks to, yeah, they have some elements. But Joe, 1 minute, because then we'll pick it up after lunch, right?
It's the same all over the world. Lack of, actually the problems both on the supply and demand side. On the supply side, the financial institutions approach it with a risk lens. The risk lens, not impact lens, risk lens, and it's a huge problem. So, and then on the private sector side, in the urban areas, there are a few you'll find who are able to develop bankable projects. Even the public sector, we are struggling. Why there are no PPPs? Because there are no projects. So people will give for you names, shopping list, names of a list of projects. They call those projects. But bankable projects takes effort, and that's where we come in. At UNCDF, we have a pool in Uganda alone. We have about 8 investment officers. So why we built that team of investment officers is to help project development. We've worked with the UDB. Within the last, Uganda Development Bank is one of the development, if not the only development bank in Uganda. It's the only development bank in Uganda. Within this year, we're able to give out about 30 concession loans to SMEs. You know where the trick was? We have 8 investment officers who help this, and so the technical assistance, the BDS support, that grant, that early stage that I put there becomes very critical to build. And it's not only in Uganda, we face it. Somalia, we're not speaking that language yet. We're just on grant. In Tanzania, the same story. We're doing a lot of work in Tanzania, but we build internal capacity. The big question for us, we've been engaging with the Ministry of Finance, PPP unit, and the NPA on how do we build capacity of project development in country, because it's not sustainable for it to be at the UNCDF. It has to be in country. We attempted Makerere University, the Center of Excellence. World Bank established a Center of Excellence in Public Investment Management, Makerere University. We attempted to build capacity in that center to support project development with mixed results. So that's that's the elephant in the house. How do we get the bankable projects across? The supply side is easy to mindset changing. We use de-risking instruments to help the banks respond more positively. I hope I've answered you, madam. Thank you.
Just